The crazy thing is before I went flat as a board and I fell back, my wife was like, she woke up and she saw me. And I remember saying this, and I literally just said, I am leaving this earth. And I freaking boom.
What is going on? Welcome back to Jiu-Jitsu Outlet. I'm sitting down with a Jiu-Jitsu black belt and app creator, Mr. Michael Cragholm. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great, brother. How are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. So I'm really excited to talk about kind of the growth of jiu-jitsu, how technology might play a part in that, and hear about some of the stuff you're working on, man. But before we get into all of that, I want to ask you the question that I start every episode of the show with, which is, how has training in the martial arts impacted your mental health?
When I am training, I am a good version of dissociated, if that means anything to anybody. I believe when we say mindful, I'm mindful of somebody turning off these carotid arteries, right? Or snapping a limb, but I'm there, I'm focused, and literally for those minutes that I'm training, it's one of the only very peaceful moments that I have during the day to take my mind off of that itty bitty shitty committee upstairs that just won't turn off, right? Even though I sometimes get rid of it. But um, I had a coach once tell me I should hug myself from time to time instead of punch myself, and I thought that that was pretty cool. So things like that, you meet some of the coolest people, and they give you some of the coolest, nuggets of wisdom like that. That's the first thing that comes to mind when, you ask me about my jujitsu and my mental health. It slows everything down. It turns down the volume. It allows me to be more myself, like an expression of myself. I'm really aggressive, and my jujitsu, like at full speed, is really aggressive. But I'm not very aggressive these days because that's not my business model with mobile jujitsu. So we're an older crowd that tends to go a little bit more chill.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's something that you got to adapt to. I think as you get older, your jujitsu game kind of has to change a little bit, and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
But dude, I love what you said about it being like a healthy disassociation, because typically, if you think about disassociation, like that word typically is not considered like a good thing, which I've always thought is kind of a weird concept. Because to me, I think that there is a what you're talking about, like a healthy level of disassociation that lets you kind of take a broader look at your life. And if you ever experience some sort of a psychedelic medicine like magic mushrooms or something, I mean, obviously I've never done these once in my life, but a friend told me, wink, wink, a friend, but told me, but just if the FBI is watching, this is a
Totally right.
fake story. But I've heard that they help you to do the same thing, kind of take like a really broad look at your life and, you know what I mean? And really like see these little parts of your life that really maybe aren't that big of a deal. And I feel like that is really what jujitsu does for me. And I guess, yeah, for you too. It like
Totally
helps you to, you maybe you're pissed about something and then you go train. And then afterwards you're like, man, what was I even upset about? It wasn't even that big of a deal.
nailed it.
Dude, I feel like, can you go a little bit deeper? Like, do you have any examples or anything that you can share with us?
Um, After the Battle of Fallujah, I had developed what ultimately was post traumatic stress, and being in closed rooms was terrible. It was tough. I had really bad claustrophobia, and I'm getting a little bit tight right now just even talking about it, right? But it ultimately putting myself into the lion's den over and over and over and over and over and over and over, damn near shock therapy, um, really helped me snap out of some of these things that were really hurting me. Specifically, like my ability to breathe was one of them. A lot of vets have like this thing called paradoxical vocal cord dysfunction, where it just your vocal cords just stick because it's just like they're exercise induced or something along those lines. But um, it could be irritant induced, and you breathe a lot of toxins when we're over in the war. So going back into the fray all the time. And the cool part was is having teammates when I trained at Palo Guilbel's, where I got my black belt. The team there was just spectacular. They knew that there was some times that I would hit this wall really fast, like, and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was anxiety for a long time. It wasn't. It was my actual vocal cords sticking together. And so, but everybody was super cool. No one ever judged me or anything for having to sometimes be like, whoa, and getting much more defensive, right? Like, I'm approaching my black belt, I'm trying to be as aggressive as I can. And just going back to the relationships thing, knowing that there's people that I can count on to go and be in this like terribly claustrophobic situation, right? Like jujitsu, you have this coat on that somebody's strangling you with, and sometimes it's terrible. Like we're gonna have an open mat tomorrow at my buddy's garage. There's gonna be 10 of us in there, and he's like, bring your gis. I'm like, don't bring your gis. I'm like, no, it's no gi. What are you kidding? You know, like so. But that would probably be the first example that I could come up with, along with several others. But how about yourself?
Man, the same. In a lot. Well, was not in the Battle of Fallujah, but being in that close environment, like you're talking about. Like for me, I found out later in life that I'm on the autism spectrum,
Okay.
and I have a lot of trouble with sensory overwhelm and the noise and the bustle and stuff like that. And it just like a lot of times it's too hard for me to go into like Walmart, for instance, it's too loud. You can probably relate too, but maybe for different reasons because of the PTSD, but, there's a book I really love called The Zen Way to the Martial Arts. Great book. And, I think it's by a guy named Joe Hyens, but, great book. And in the book, he talks about how the dojo is an arena of confined conflict where you meet an opponent who's not really an opponent, but a partner who's there to help us know ourselves more fully. And that's like one of my favorite quotes about the martial arts. And really, what you said really reminded me of that, which is just like you go into this place that's like, it appears really dangerous, but it's actually a safe space. And you're battling with someone who, by all accounts, seems like they're your enemy, but they're not. They're actually your friend. And it's very paradoxical, especially for people like me, where my first reaction is like, this person's a threat because they're overwhelming to me. Their energy, I can feel people's energy very, very fully. I'm sure you can relate. And I was in the military too. And they teach you that stuff. They teach you how to be hyper aware. It's like, and especially if you've actually been to war. I didn't deploy, but I've got a ton of respect for people like you who did. And I imagine it's ramped up all the more because then obviously you're in it. Like, can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, how has jiu-jitsu kind of helped you with your PTSD and going off and overcoming that? Because I imagine, like, did you train jiu-jitsu when you were in the military, or is that something that you found after you got out?
I did. So I trained jiu-jitsu in the military. How it helps. I started Muay Thai when I was in college, and then I went and I started training, not luta livre, but it was basically no gi, but it was with Marco Huas in the early 2000s in Laguna Niguel. There was a lot of guys around there that time. Some of them are not alive anymore. Like Jeremy Williams, I trained at his place at Apex Jiu-Jitsu, and I believe Elisa Viejo. It's unfortunate he didn't. He took his own life, unfortunately. Just a wonderful dude, but he had demons. And so I literally grew up. I got a belt from each belt of mine is from a different person. So because we traveled so much in the Marine Corps, and please bear with me. Sometimes I try to organize my thoughts so that I don't go freaking out into outer
space.
No worries,
man. No worries.
I'll do that from time to time.
All my belts are from different people too, so I can relate.
All right. So yeah, and the cool part is that I guess when it comes to how the jujitsu is helping me with my PTSD. I believe largely that brother, I've addressed much of the stress that I've had with the post-traumatic stress and the nightmares. Goodness, I set like 40 alarms. I'm sorry. I forgot to turn them all off. Um, but I really did a very good job of addressing a lot of the stress that I've had. And I always keep stuff like this within a few arms, literally, like I'm working on this with somebody right now. But I've, come to the conclusion that there's this thing called moral injury that a lot of people believe is post-traumatic stress, but it's actually when somebody or something that you hold to be true, like just destroys the foundations of what that person told you to be true, and that's something that for me, jujitsu, one, because you get to know people and you learn. Okay, not just because you don't have a black belt doesn't mean like you're just this pillar of ethical behavior, right? So, you get that everywhere. Um, but for helping me, it again, just the ability to breathe, to be able to express myself and my aggression, my, you know, higher levels of testosterone, right? On the mats with people that are like, let's go, and they embrace it. So that's helped me tremendously. Oh, just knowing that I have a tribe, because when you do leave the military, you lose your tribe. You know, the drill, it's tough. It's really tough. I didn't think it was going to hit me as hard as it did, but again, if it wasn't for jujitsu and entrepreneurialism, I now have a purpose in life through mobile jujitsu that it wasn't on my plate a year and a month ago. It was me applying for jobs at L3, up the street and stuff like that. And then one day it was like a lightning bolt. It's mobile jujitsu. And I just was like, cool, created a company and that took off. And now I have the Jiu-Jitsu Entrepreneurs Mastermind, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Like 10, 15 people show up. It's open to any people that are interested in being entrepreneurial. It's really, really fun too. And that's led to Grappl App. So, which is the web application, the progressive web app that I'm building. And I say I'm building because it's largely built, but we're constantly iterating supremely fast over and over again. And it's been really neat because I get to interact with so many of the customers, and the customers are all jujitsu enthusiasts. So it's like, oh man, now I've been able to crack this way into the jujitsu community that's totally unique. And I'm solving a problem that people have, which is effectively finding friendly open mats when they're traveling, or like a mobile sensei when they're on their fourth day of Disney World and they are missing their gym in Mississippi, and they're like, oh, and then all of a sudden there's me. I'll come to you.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about that. How do you feel like technology can help the growth of jiu-jitsu? And how do you feel like what you're trying to do might be able to help people kind of like stick with training or get better? Yeah, how do you think the technology and jiu-jitsu kind of go together, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Man, I love it. And thanks you for, asking, because jujitsu attracts a very interesting type of person. And a lot of them are tech guys. A lot of them are, techie dudes. Uh, I realized after training up to about 20 guys a week that I needed to do something different because my body was breaking, and I couldn't build up a black belt. In the back of my mind, I knew that there was something there, right? And besides the sign that says space for rent, as my dad told me growing up, but it was tech. And I kept thinking, hearing tech, tech, tech. And one day I just came to me, I was like, why not just do what I'm doing, but offer it to people on an application? Because how many times have you gone to Google looking for like jujitsu in Georgia or Atlanta, Georgia, and then it gives you Nan's Taekwondo Academy and some jujitsu studio 74 miles away, and you're like, no. So essentially, what we did was we just created a progressive web app that works. It's not in any store, and it's just it's geolocate, and wherever you're at, it'll pick up if the school is registered. or if there's a mobile sensei in your area, it'll pick it up and it'll populate it, and you can just contact the person directly through there. So for me, I believe jujitsu and tech are bringing like-minded people together. It's getting people that otherwise would not train jujitsu because they don't have the time because they're working so much and they've got a family, or two, they've gone to a traditional dojo and it just didn't go well, but they know they want to do it again, right? And they're like, oh, well, for a premium, I can have somebody come to me, and it's like, yeah, and people are definitely, they're willing to do it. There's, I have lots of clients, like damn near all the guys. There's like 10 guys going tomorrow to this open mat that one of my original clients, a purple belt in this area, owns Grappl Cove now, and he does health, recovery, and wellness and jujitsu in his garage, and he's got like 3 clients now, like people that are coming to him, and he's a good purple belt, former Marine, and kicking butt. Now we have like 7 of my clients and then a couple other friends from Orlando, and we're all going to meet and just train and, have fun, just some chill rolls. And these are like half of them are people that otherwise would have never, ever come into jujitsu if it wasn't for the option of like, oh, this guy's not going to like break my arm. Okay, cool. So, because that's not going to do me any good. Why do I want to hurt my client? I want to keep going back to him, right? So, and the tech just come like literally if people just want to install the app to their phone and then create a mobile sensei profile, or, put their gym into our open mat finder, that's for free. It's literally now going to connect people that otherwise wouldn't have trained. So I'm really excited. And for people like yourself, or say it's another avenue for you to just advertise on an app, because the cool thing is we do the SEO for these people. So if they're a mobile sensei on my program, they don't have to do their SEO because Grappl App will do it for them. And so it's just like my CMO and my developer, they're like supremely like on a different level. And they're just like, hey, Michael, just go on a podcast, keep doing your black belt thing, keep kicking butt. And they're taking care of all the tech stuff, and it's working out wonderfully.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to check it out a little bit more. And I love what you said. I think that the technology connects us together and helps you find like-minded people. And I think that it's great to see like people go from the online world to in person. I think that that's often where we mess it up, and we just stay online talking and stuff like that. And that's great and all, but you got to make an effort to actually meet up with these people in person. And like a mutual friend of ours, Scotty Pelzel, for example, I think you guys just met recently, but he's the man. And him and I were buddies online for forever, and we did podcasts together, but I'd like never met him. And then we finally got to like hang out in person, and it was great. It was awesome. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's really nice. Like, you forget, like, and we got to have a good time. He came out here and we swam in the river, did some jiu-jitsu. And then we hung out again at the ADCC trials. And, this is one example, but I guess what I'm saying is, it's like, it's a lot better. You know what I'm saying? Totally. It's a lot more fun when you're hanging out in person, give each other a hug, smoke a joint, or, get some rolls in, like,
Interestingly say him, because he was one of the Dave Perret contacted him when I started, because he was a devil dog, and was like, hey, support this guy. And so the Scotty P breakdown from the very beginning was like giving me shouts out. And then of course, I used him on his podcast at the CJI, and it was great. Supremely cool dude. Just really great guy.
Yeah, he's the man. Dude, let's talk a little bit about the CGI. I know that you were there, and just kind of on our conversation about the growth of jiu-jitsu, can you tell us a little bit about what was that experience like being there in person for this kind of historic event?
The energy was like, you could feel it. It was at the very beginning. It was interesting because the pictures when Nicky Rod came out at the very beginning for the first match, there weren't very many people there, but by the evening time, because it was from like 3 to well past midnight on that first day. It was long. It was really a lot of jiu-jitsu. But it was supremely cool because everywhere you walked around, you would see people around specific corners that you're like, oh, okay, that guy's online. A couple people were like, Space Coast Mobile Jiu-Jitsu. And I was like, yeah, there was some celebrities there that were pretty cool. I wore this shirt when it wasn't ripping off and it said, like some people, literally a UFC Hall of Famer was like Grappl App, and so it was pretty neat. I was able to just kind of, I don't know, be like in the crowd, but not be like, I don't, I'll probably have a booth next year, actually, to be completely honest, because um, there's this thing called a robot. I don't know if you've seen it, but Uriah Faber was at their robot station, and it looks like Snake Eyes from freaking GI Joe, and it has like these red. It is literally insane. But Scotty was wrestling it. I think he has a video of him like grappling it or something, and it looks phenomenal. It looks super cool. So it was pretty neat to see like new stuff out there. Um, and just running into people left and right. It was good to see. I hadn't seen Jocko in probably 15 years, long time. So it was neat to see him again. And I think he remembered me. So that was kind of neat. I was a white belt at that time, and he was a black belt. But that was at Victory when it was Throwdown in San Diego. But yeah, that was a long time ago when he actually gave privates. I got like two or three privates from Jocko like a long time ago.
That's
People are
awesome.
like, yeah, they're like, he doesn't do privates. I'm like, he did. He really did back in the day. So that was pretty neat. And, but, yeah, man.
Dude, that's awesome. That's
Thanks,
awesome.
bro.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens with the growth of Grappl App, dude.
Thanks,
Tell us a
man.
little bit more about it. Like, how does it work? And you talked a little bit about this mobile sensei feature. Can you tell us, like, how does that work?
So it largely gives any person that doesn't have, $12,000 to buy a garage in a strip mall for a down payment, on a lease, an opportunity for $49 or $110 or something to become a bona fide like mobile sensei, where they'll have a place to manage like a schedule for them to be in the mobile jiu-jitsu community. Well, what is mobile jiu-jitsu? It's literally exactly what you think it is. It's people either like coming to your house and training jujitsu or you going to them. And I've probably had about 30 clients over the last year. And about 20 of them are still in the mix and kind of sticking around. And it's something that was needed and people latched onto it because it goes back to the relationships thing. It was a great opportunity to build relationships with people in the Space Coast community, and largely take that and you use that as a good opportunity to put a good foot forward for jujitsu, right? Because as we need that, we really do. Um, and so I literally, instead of getting a garage in a strip mall, I just opened up my garage because during COVID, remember, everybody had mats back then. So I had all these mats. And then I was training at my friend's house during the summer here in Florida. I'd gotten denied like by from jobs for around this area, like the 20th in a row. I was like, what the heck? And then my buddy, I'm like training him at his house. He's a purple belt, and we were trained for like an hour and a half. I helped him with a few things to go back to his school, and I'm rolling my mats and I'm putting them in my Yukon. And he's like grabbing a beer from his fridge. And he literally is like, bro, I'm about to go get in my shower, like 10 feet away. You might have something here. And I'm not kidding. I just literally shut the Yukon and I just looked at myself and I went, Space Coast Mobile Jiu Jitsu. And I got in my truck. I went home, got on Department of State website, and for $155 I was in. And then it was all just, it took off like, rocket here in the Space Coast. So then, brother, I got kind of to the point where it just was too much. So I took that side, thing in my brain and used Grappl App as an opportunity to build something that people will use, which because they are, and have it be really lean and sexy and responsive. And we figured a way to do that through using a progressive web app instead of an actual mobile app. And the difference is I'm just hosting it on grapplapp.io. and there's no E. And so it literally, you just go there, you install it to your, like, it looks like a mobile desktop thing, but it works offline and everywhere you go. It's very responsive. And the cool, I've had like 5 or 6 people reach out and say, hey, can you build me an app? And I talked to my developer and I was like, can we do this? And he says, absolutely 100%. So we're like literally not just in talks, but we're like moving forward with building other people progressive web applications and actually one mobile game. So if people have ideas, I tell them, contact me, because there's ways to pursue your entrepreneurial dreams without having to break the bank, whether it's through jiu-jitsu or a mobile app, progressive web app. I hope people think of Grappl App.
Dude, well, I just got it pulled up and I freaking love this thing, man. This is awesome. Like, let me share my screen real quick. So this thing, right?
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Yeah. So we go here and then we just can install it. And can you see my screen now? Oh, let me share this. Okay, yep. This is it, right?
Yeah, that's the open mat finder. So when people literally just go to grapplapp.io, we want to provide value without asking anything in return. That's the thing we want to do. So what's missing are open mat finders out there that don't require people to log in or share any data. So what we've done instead is just said, hey, either add your open mat, or we're just like going through, if people are like, hey, if they write us from a place, my CMO, he'll literally go online and like add them, and then, see, there you go. Oh, it's just kind of, yeah, it's really neat. And like the flexibility and adaptability, like I could call my developer, like, after 5 p.m., I respect his other job, and say, hey, we need to make a change to X. And he'd be like, cool. And he'd just go get on his computer. Whereas opposed, if you had to submit something to Google Play Store or iOS, good luck having that completed anytime soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, that was awesome. That's awesome. Well, I really like it, man. And
thanks, bro.
I run my academy, Jiu-Jitsu Outlet, out of my garage here on. I've got 5 acres here in the middle of nowhere, and we're next to a river out here in the Ozarks. And yeah, we're doing great. Gonna have classes here later, and been going strong for about a year. And honestly, I'd love to learn more about this, because I've thought, man, like this is something that I think could really revolutionize how people train martial arts, because you're totally right. You don't need to have a place in a strip mall, especially if you're out here. Like I live out here in a rural community, middle of nowhere. And, there's a lot of people like me who have land, or they have a garage and they have some mats, and they might just not be realizing that they have a huge business opportunity there. Because even if there's no one who trains, like that was where I was like, man, there's no one who trains jiu-jitsu out here. Closest academy is like 45 minutes away. And I was like, man, what if I could just convince some of the locals here to start training? And the little bit of Facebook advertising, you can get people to start showing up. And if you do a good job of teaching them, then a year later, they're pretty good at jiu-jitsu, and suddenly you've got a team, and you go win tournaments and do all the other cool shit we've been doing. So that's really what I'm trying to promote here, man, is that like, jiu-jitsu can look different than how we've always done it. And I think that it should, because honestly, I think the old way is could be done a lot better. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu schools that they have black belts in jiu-jitsu, but they absolutely suck at business or teaching or communicating with people. That's huge. Like The biggest thing I've realized from teaching jiu-jitsu the last year is the martial arts skills are like, you have to have them. Obviously, you need to know what you're doing. You can't just teach nonsense, but they're not nearly as important as the communication skills and the creating a good environment and really just keeping it interesting, especially for kids. Kids don't want to listen to you talk for 45 minutes about De La Hiva guard. They're not gonna retain it. They're gonna be bored out of their minds. They're probably gonna start running around, causing trouble, misbehaving. But really, it's just because you're boring. And you need to give them a game, or give them a practical exercise or something. So that's what I've been doing, man. And I really love what you're doing too. And I'd love to see how we can support each other because
Wonderful.
it's good shit, man.
I agree, man. I appreciate that. I actually wanted to quickly share something that we have in common. I have a scar on the back of my head from passing out and hitting my head in the middle of the night.
Love it. So you heard about that from me. I
Yeah,
had a
yes.
concussion a couple years ago.
I mean, bro, it was crazy. I never thought in a million years, just, standing up quickly, right? Like it was just going to create a boom. And I was like, man, hopefully I don't, hopefully I don't go out like that in jiu-jitsu from now on. Like if
Right?
somebody thinks just something in, like, so I'm getting out of things super fast now, but luckily, I have really, really strong bones and my grape is just fine. But dude, I literally in the middle of the night, just like you, boom, bang.
Dude, that's crazy. That was honestly something that has like just changed the way I view my life for real because I was in the middle of the night a couple years ago and I went to the bathroom and I tripped over my squatty potty and
Oh,
hit my head on the bathtub and went into shock and my wife had to drive me to the hospital and definitely like the closest I've come to dying. And for about a year, I was just like kind of out of commission. It took me about 6 months before I was like able to really function, but it was like a full year before I felt like kind of back to normal.
yeah.
But I still like fumble over my words and stuff, and it's been like 3 years, and sometimes I have trouble like finding a word, but dude, it's just changed. I mean, I feel like you probably feel the same, or I mean, maybe, but it changed how I viewed life because I was like, man, if you
100%.
can, like, I don't know, it's like, why be afraid of death if I could just die going to the bathroom at night? Like people who I used to always be afraid of like, oh, how am I going to go? Like, is it going to, like, what's it going to look like? When? And I was like, dude, like, screw it. You could die right now. You could stand up and slip and hit your head and that could be it.
Like literally, Al Pacino says, "You killed walking your doggy," and it's like the crazy thing is before I went flat as a board and I fell back, my wife was like, she woke up and she saw me, and I remember saying this, and I literally just said, "I am leaving this earth," and I freaking boom, and I mean, I remembered that afterwards, and I told my wife, and she was like, I thought you were calling your shot, dude. Like, cause I was bleeding, and she was like calling. I was like, thank God. But bro, I said, I am leaving. So I don't know. And maybe some other multiverse universe out there that I died, a million times over or something like that. But woof.
Man. Yeah, we probably all died a million times over in the multiverse.
Probably.
That's something I've thought about a lot too. If you believe the multiverse is true,
I
then
mean, you can't be logical and not, because I believe it is actually logical. The smartest people in the universe that we know of say it is. So,
yeah. So if that's true, that means that there's a version of reality somewhere out there in the infinite multiverse where right now an asteroid hits and we, in this moment, this is it. Not
cheers!
just for us, but all of humanity.
Where's my wife? We'll get one more run in,
Right? And then there's another version of reality where like a rock falls in right now and crushes just me, but you're fine. Then there's another version where the rock gets you. There's another version where the rock falls in and nothing. I dodge it. You know what I'm saying? Like everything, man. I think about this a lot.
I can clearly tell that you're in a. See, jiu-jitsu brings attractive mind. We get some things, and some people, they don't get it. I'm like, that's cool. Just come train jiu-jitsu. We don't have to talk. And then they just.
Well, Michael, dude, I feel like we could chat all day. This has been a great conversation. We'll have to get you back next time, like maybe in a year or two when Grappl App is like everywhere and every single person in the world has it on their phones. I can be like, I remember way back when you were first getting started and we were talking about doing another show when it was bigger. And now we're here.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for having me, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Well, hey, if you're listening to this and you want to check out Grappl App, I'll put all the links down below. And if you want to talk to Michael about him building you an app, I'll put links to talk to him. So go click those links and then click the other buttons where you download the thing or you talk to Michael or whatever. And yeah, check it out. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.